Hello and welcome to SEPAC Summer School for 2026. My name is Leslie, and part of my role at the Federation is to work with both families and school district administrators to build an effective SEPAC. For 7 years, we have been conducting a multi-series summer school to help build the skill set of family leaders as they start to participate in their CPAC. The theme this summer is all about inclusion. So let's get started and welcome. For those of you who are new to the Federation, we are a nonprofit based in Boston. We're the federally funded Parent Training and Information Center. And we have a relatively new mission and aspiration statement. It's all about empowering families. We're trying to really engage the diverse communities in our state and eliminate those barriers that can be posed to improve life outcomes for all children and young adults, especially those with disabilities. If you want some more information about the Federation, I encourage you to go to our website, www.fcsn.org. Today's learning objectives are really focusing on the basic of inclusion and the knowledge that we will need to kind of go forward in this summer school session to kind of look at this a little bit more deeply. So we're going to start with the legal foundations of inclusion and explore what least restrictive environment means and how that relates to the IEP, which is the Individualized Education Program for students with disabilities. We're going to review some of the placement options within a school system and look at the inclusion practices that school districts might be using in the classroom. So what is inclusion? I have the definition here from our federal special education law, or IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Education Act. And that law says, to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are not disabled. And any special classes, separate schooling, or other removal of children with disabilities from the regular educational environment occurs only when the nature or severity of the disability of a child is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So this provision is called the least restrictive environment. There is no legal definition of inclusion. It's an explanation of what that least restrictive environment. And it means that before the school can remove a child from general education, they must try to help the child by providing supplementary aids and services. And those can be support in the classroom, in terms of accommodations or related service providers or other therapists, supporting the child in the general education classroom. Often we refer our families and educators to good resources in our disability community. The Iris Center at Vanderbilt University has a nice brief, a very accessible document on the least restrictive environment, and I put the link here. We know that students' IEPs must address this concept of least restrictive environment, whether the student will participate in the general education setting. Our new IEP, this is a snapshot of the section, asks that question: can the student's educational needs be met in the general education setting with or without the use of supplementary aids and services? And so the team needs to discuss this, respond, and if the answer is no, they need to provide an explanation of the extent to which the student will not participate in general education. So it should be a robust discussion around what supplementary aids and services were considered before determining that the student needed to be removed from that general education class or activity. It's really about understanding what supports and services the student needs to make effective progress in that general curriculum environment. Identifying the least restrictive environment is looking at program decisions about what services the students needs and where and how those will be provided effectively. And so we know that the IEP is documenting why a student is being placed outside of a general ed classroom. There are many placement options within the school environment, and the schools are required to ensure that a continuum of alternative placements is available to meet the needs of children with disabilities for special education and related services. And that continuum is from the least restrictive environment to the most restrictive environment. And a child with an IEP should be with students in the general education environment to the maximum extent appropriate. I have a snapshot here of the Massachusetts placement form, which documents that least restrictive environment to the most restrictive. So at the top, we have what's considered a full inclusion program, that the services were provided outside the general ed classroom less than 21% of the time. So the student would be 80% included in general education. That's full inclusion. And you can see it moves down the continuum. And so a student could ultimately be moved into a substantially separate classroom to receive those services, or even into a separate school, either public or private. And some students need even more restricted environments or placement settings due to the nature of their disability. And that could be a residential school or a hospital placement. So let's look at what inclusion in a general ed classroom setting might look like. It could have some students who receive special education, and those students might be pulled out for that type of service. General education teachers and special education teachers may work together in a classroom to meet the needs of all students. That's a kind of a co-teaching model. And in other classrooms, the special education teachers kind of come in at special times during the day to teach and support students. That's push-in services. But inclusion goes beyond just the classroom placement. It's about making sure that every child has a chance to participate in all school activities. The school districts may use many strategies and instructional and behavioral strategies to support the student in an inclusive environment. And I've listed three of them here. This is not a class on these three strategies, but it's making you aware that your school district may be using one or more of these strategies to support all students in classrooms. And I put a link to more information about each one of these strategies. The first one is Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, and that's where the classroom curriculum and teaching is designed to meet all different types of learners, and students kind of can enter into the learning process from a strength area for where they're at, and it kind of scaffolds the learning to meet the needs of all students in a classroom. Positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS, are strategies that seek to build skills in students to have those positive behavior interventions before an issue arises with a student, to keep them and support them in a classroom, and to help build their skill set to be able to successfully participate. And social emotional learning. Every school district, this is also called SEL, is required to have a social emotional learning plan to build the capacities of the students, to have them be more self-aware and to be more self-directed. These are all strategies that require training of educators and resources from the school district to support these in the general education environment. There are so many benefits of inclusion, and research shows that inclusion is not only beneficial for students with disability, but for all students. It fosters that sense of belonging for students with disabilities. But for all students, it values differences and breaks down some of those discriminatory barriers. Students we find, are absent less often. They're more excited about participating in their school activities and programs. And it empowers those individuals to meet their potential. We're setting high expectations for students, for all students. For those students without disabilities, it increases their empathy and acceptance of difference, and they can develop diverse, caring friendships. And the research shows that students are more likely to graduate in 4 years. So it has lots of benefits for the whole school environment. Inclusion is not solely the job of any one educator or a classroom. The successful creation of inclusive settings begins at the school and district levels, with superintendents and principals bearing as much responsibility for student success as the educators and related service providers. Family voice is important to inform these district decision makers. And so there could be changes to policies and practice in a school districts that should be informed. When families are engaged, we know that we have better outcomes for students. The SEPAC can play an important role, and one of their duties under the law includes advising the school district and school committee on matters that pertain to the education and safety of students with disabilities. So the SEPAC can follow the district's performance on federal special education indicators. This falls under their advisory duty, and one of these indicators is related to inclusion. Federal indicator number 5 tracks how well the state and schools within the state, because they all report to the state for that larger number, ensure that students with disabilities are educated alongside peers without disabilities. And the question that that federal indicator tracks is, what educational environments are children and youth with disabilities a part of, and do they have meaningful access to the general curriculum and the life of the school? And you can learn more about the federal indicators, especially indicator number 5 at this link I have to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website. And we're going to use this as the basis for the second session of SEPAC Summer School, is looking at inclusion in your school. Examining the data about your school, learning about what your school is doing, and some best practices. So we want you to stay tuned to SEPAC Summer School and attend the future sessions. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, they can always reach out to the Federation. We are that free phone call, that place where you can get resources, answers to your questions, and you can contact us through either a phone call or complete our intake form, and we'll get back to you. So thank you for joining us.